Hi, everybody. I am Andra Annette, and welcome to Healing from the Inside Out. So, in my professional life, I am a nurse, a holistic practitioner, a leaky gut, thyroid, and weight loss expert. And I am here with some very professional people that are co-hosts on my show. So, we're going to hear from each of them, and then we're going to get into today's topic. So, CJ, honey, please tell me what you do for life.
In my professional life, I am on a mission to help every single woman at the age of 50 to say fuck yes to it all. The money, the cash, the business, the living, anything that they want. I think we spend a lifetime of, trying to fit in this little box of what everybody else tells us what to do. And it's time for us to just stand out and step out and do whatever we want.
I love that.
Leslie, my self-care expert.
Yeah. So I really think that self-care gets a bad rap just because a lot of people look at it as a buzzword. For me, self-care goes deeper than just those surface levels, mani pedis, massages, and things like that. I really feel like it's going the deeper levels of looking at your energy, your time management goes hand in hand to, just having that self-trust, that's part of it too, and the relationships with the people in your lives. And so for me, it's more about really being able to have that life that you truly want to live and love it. But it starts with us first. And I think we're always looking for that external validation. So that's why I love to work with women that I work with to help them to realize that, okay, it starts with you first. Love who you are. Like the both of you talk about that, loving who you are first, being able to say, okay, I love this person that I am without any judgment, without any fears about like what you look like, what your dollar value is, because a lot of people put value on that, and just actually just show up as the authentic version of yourself. And I think authenticity also gets a bad rap too, because people think, oh, well, I can just be who I am normally and say what I want. But it's not just about that. It's actually about coming from that kind, loving, graceful, grateful state of being. And again, that I think starts with loving who you are, being able to take care of yourself, having those deeper relationships that respect you, that honor what you're looking for, what you're putting out into the world is mirroring back to you. And also like how you use your energy, which I believe is our most valuable resource. People think it's time, but our time, we can only spend it well when we're energized. And then of course, Andra, you talk a lot about like the gut health, and I know that plays a big part because you need to also be able to be fueling yourself with the right things. And so that's what I do. I typically work with women, and I also have a 3-step system, which I call the yes reset method. And it's really just about being able to say yes to the things that fuel you, being able to say no when it's not in alignment, and not doing it out of guilt or fear or obligation, and being able to say like, maybe not right now, being able to honor you as a human being so that you actually live that quality of life.
Okay, so I think this is a perfect time to really have this conversation. So I think that we should really dive into what self-care is today, really, because it's not mani and pedis. It's absolutely not. And how to really manage yourself and find your center in a world that's full of noise. So I like what Leslie said, and we're going to hear CJ's thoughts on that too, because I know she's right on that page as well. There was a time in my life, and I'm sure every lady here can agree with me, that I wasn't so, some people might call it self-absorbed, but for me, it's really centered because I was always worried about other people. I was always that people pleaser. I was always saying yes to everybody else, but every time I did, I said no to myself. And it found me in a very unbecoming body, and really waking up very tearful one day and saying, oh my God, what happened to you? Where are you? And I really didn't know how to get back. And I had to take a look at all those yeses I said and why I said that, why I said yes to them and no to me. And why did I feel like I wasn't enough the way I was, and why I didn't set those boundaries that had now, taken over my body and my life and left me where I was in that moment. And, even when I started my business online, I started listening to all that noise again. And it took me a little step this time to say, oh no, not today. I'm not going there again. And just really showing up as myself, because the more I started listening to them, the more I started feeling, but that's not who I am. And how can I show up with love and authenticity and not really be who I am? Um and I had to stop that because I was becoming this nurse ratchet, and I was like, this isn't me. This isn't me. And like I would show up feeling uncomfortable because it wasn't my voice, you know? And I think that as women, our voice is so important. We all have a different take. We've all gone through different things that have gotten us through so many trials and tribulations. We are the foundation of our children, our marriages, those people that we're raising out there. And it's only when we come together and have those real conversations do we allow people to really be themselves and to be authentic and say, I don't need this system to like do this. I can do this. And we take back our power and we start asking each other for help, right? Because a lot of people out there don't understand that we don't get to where we are without that help, without that support. I probably would have given up on my business a long time ago, if not for people like you and CJ that said, just keep going. You got this, right? And that is that support and that love and those real communities that we need in women that we don't find today. There's a lot of cattiness and pettiness, and I don't care if you're making $1 million in your business. Are you happy, Leslie? CJ, are you happy doing what you do? That to me matters more than anything else. And I'm happy to say, look what she's done. I know her. And I know her when, right? So that's where we have to come from. So CJ, I want you to express what you feel about what Leslie said, because this is really about self-care. And I think we all have our opinions on how that works in our life. So I would love to hear your opinion.
So coming from an idea of being raised by a woman who was just like, she wanted everybody to be happy at her own expense. My mom did everything for everybody. And I watched that my whole life, where she never said no to anybody else and she never said yes to herself. And so for me, it was like always, try to strive to make sure everybody's happy, be that peacekeeper, do that thing. And, as women, we do that in our lives and our businesses. And we're like, oh, just be the placeholder, make sure everybody else's needs are met, be the last one to eat at the table, do all the things. And I think for self-care, it's really about, like you said, stopping and going, okay, is what I'm doing really making me happy? Is it going to get me to where I want? And for me, as being a mom of 7, it's like my daughters are watching. Do I want my daughters to emulate the same behavior that I'm doing? Do I want them to give up their dreams and their goals and their desires to make sure everybody else around them is happy? No, I don't. So, it's really leading by example, having those hard conversations with yourself. But like you said, seeking out those women who are going to support you, who are going to give you nice criticism, but in a way that challenges you to step up and be the best that you can be. And just really taking a step back and going, okay, I need to fill my cup. And everybody growing up told me, fill your cup first, put on your oxygen mask first. And my eyes would roll in the back of my head. And I'd be like, what's that going to do? I'm not going to get anywhere if I don't like placate people, or I make people happy, or I do the things that jump through the hoops to get what they tell me I can have if I do these certain things. And you lose yourself in the way. So it's very important for me, like every single day I go, okay, I'm going to be intentional about my energy today. Everything that comes out of my mouth is going to be something that's going to get me towards my vision, because I know there are thousands of women out there looking for that permission slip, looking for that woman that they can follow and go, okay, she's got it going on. She knows what she wants. She's going for it no matter what's happening around her, no matter what anybody else thinks. And she's not going to let anybody sidetrack her, because in the realm of things, it's not about me. It's about all those women who come into contact with me. When I came into the online space, it was out of desperation. It was out of money. My cafe closed. I was like, oh my God, I need to make money. And then I realized it's not about you. It's about all those people that you can help. And coming from that service background of, trying to help other people and make sure other people's dreams are met and they're happy. It's the same thing online, but you can't do that if you're unhappy, because energy speaks volumes. And I think for me, just being in the space where I can go, okay, am I doing what makes me happy? Am I loving who I'm seeing look back at me in the mirror? Yes. And if I'm not, then I need to tweak that. And for me, self-care, that's what it means. I mean, like, do I love a good mani-pedi? Yeah, absolutely. Do I love a great massage? Absolutely. But for me, it's like more personal development. Self-care for me is like just being alone in my own space, sitting with myself and asking the hard questions, and then self-reflecting, okay, I could have done this better. I could tweak this and do this different, but in the long, in the big picture realm of things, I'm right where I need to be. And if I'm not, I know that I have the courage and the ability to say, no, I need to step back and change things and move and pivot in different directions. So for me, self-care is really about just self-reflection and being okay with where you are.
I love what you both shared so much. And one of the things I just wanted to add to what you both said was you both were describing what is called like overgivers. Like we are, or not overgivers, we are givers. We give of ourselves. We give of our time. We give of our energy. We give of our kindness, compassion, our love, our grace, our gratitude to other people because we care. We want other people to succeed. Bottom line, that is it. And so when you come into the online space, or even if you're out doing something that's, brick and mortar, and you have that nurturing, that giving nature, one of the things that I've found for myself is, and a lot of women I've talked to, is that the receiving part is not part of it. We are so good at giving, but we forget that we need to be able to receive that. So we need to be able to receive grace. We need to be able to receive that time for ourselves without worrying like, oh, I'm taking that time, I'm selfish. And I have, like, as you were saying, 7 children that are watching me and do what I'm doing. But then not realizing that that is also modeling to them how important it is to take time for yourself. Or even for you, Andra, too, like you have your children and how they're looking at you, and you're maybe, if you're not modeling like what that means to also be able to receive, then they're going to say, well, the only thing I learned was that I have to give in order to be worthy, to be deserving of anything that I get. Something that I've still had to struggle with, or I don't know if I would say struggle, but it's a challenge even for me at times because I am that type of person. And I can find myself in those spaces where it's like, oh, I'm giving so much and I'm forgetting that, hey, I need somebody to give back to me because I'm depleted. Not just doing the self-care where I go off on my own and I fill my cup that way, but it's having that community of women that I can look to and say, hey, you know what? I'm not okay. And being okay to receive because a lot of the time we say to ourselves, oh, I don't want to burden that person. I don't want to bother them with how I'm feeling and not realizing that those people in your life that you really care about, that really care about you, want to be that for you because you have done that for them. So I just wanted to add that because I know that's such a huge thing for women, especially that we're so easily able to give, but that receiving part is really hard.
I'm getting better at it. When my husband says, "What do you want for dinner?" I let him know. And he's become a much better cook, right? Where he's started doing more of the cooking than I actually do. But I do agree, and I think it's our nature. But I read a book so long ago, The Go-Giver. I don't remember what company I was in, but it was part of our reading material. We kind of had to read it as part of the company, and it talks about the giving and the receiving, and that you're robbing people of um, not allowing them to feel fulfilled when you're not openly receiving. That they need to give just as much as you need to receive, and vice versa. Just like it's part of you, it's part of them too, and there is that fine line between giving and taking. And that when someone says to you, "Hey, Leslie, you look really great," and you're like, "Oh, this whole thing,"
Yeah.
that we're kind of diminishing that compliment, and that we do need to just say thank you. Because that does make us feel good, but for some reason we become uncomfortable with accepting,
Mhm.
and I don't know why that is, but it is more of human nature today than it's ever been before. And we do have to dial it back and become more accepting, you know,
Yeah.
because if we want to continue to be those givers, then we do have to learn to accept, right? When things come our way. When you do, just like you know, we all run service-based businesses. We do a really good job. We get people those outcomes. We do have to learn to accept that money for that sale, for what we're getting them, you know, and some people feel uncomfortable asking for that money, but you're providing a service just like you would in any other business, right? So,
Yeah.
so we have to get comfortable for that. And for me, in the beginning, that was difficult because I was in health for so long, and people just came to us at the most humbling times of their lives. You know, they were being wheeled in on stretchers. So I didn't have to ask them if they needed my service. They were there and they were getting it, and I'll see them in the recovery, right? And other things took care of that. So to start asking people for pay for what I've been doing my whole life seemed very off-putting to me. But if you want to run a business, you have to get okay with accepting, you know, accepting criticism as well, right? Why this isn't working for them, what they need different, because not everybody is the same. So what you done with this person, you might have to shift a little over here because this one needs more mindset, or this one needs more support, or this one really can't afford your regular service. So maybe you can move them to something that's more aligned with them, right? So because people do, we rob people of the right to feel motivated when we don't charge for a certain service, right? Because no, as much as people think in the online space that people want free, they really don't. They want to know that they've paid their way, because it takes away from their outcome when they've got it for free, right? Because they didn't have to work for it. And there's nothing better, or you know, no better feeling or no greater motivator that knowing that you've arrived at a place because you put in that work. Because anything I've done in my life was hard work. It wasn't easy. The easy things I didn't appreciate, like writing. I people told me it wasn't a real career, and it was easy for me, so I didn't. I believed it, right? Because it was easy, and I didn't have to work at it, right? But you know, years later, when I put out that first book and that I did myself, that somebody else didn't do for me, and I realized the work it was, I said, wow, this is really cool, and I can keep doing it. So when you work for things, you do deserve those outcomes. You do deserve to feel like entitled, like, hey, look at me, look what I've done. You know what I mean? And we
Yeah.
rob people of that when we give them too much free, you know? Like, think of it like the advice that your friend gives you about your relationship or your business that you really weren't asking for, right? Because we get a lot of that too, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes that free advice is not always the best advice, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure you've experienced it, like, because you, Leslie, you spoke to this when you said that it wasn't received so well when you were so giving when you came out online, right? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's why, because people don't know how to accept always. And it's not that
Mhm.
what we're giving is wrong, because I've been giving away stuff for the last 4 years. CJ, so
Mhm.
are you. All of those posts and all those things, that's all advice. That's all things that we're giving away freely, right? You know,
Mhm.
those plans, those, you know, whatever we're giving, these product samples, whatever it is, that's all what we're giving. And people don't know how to accept that because it all almost causes caution in them. Like, uh-oh, because we've all been taught that if it sounds too good to be true, it usually isn't. That's been
The,
ingrained in us. So when
the
someone
what's
comes
in it for me
along,
mentality.
yeah, but that's what we've created, and we have to start speaking to things more like that too, because
Yeah.
people are less trusting when things sound too good to be true, right? You know,
Well, I
I'm
think
out there telling people,
we're in a
what?
trust recession though. I feel like we're in a trust recession. And I think partly is because there has been so many voices out there that have been, BS. They're not truthful. They're not honoring what they do within, they're not leading with integrity. So they're putting out stuff out there that's why I think there's a lot of people out there who are now starting to have less faith in the industries out there that are online that are saying, hey, do this and this is going to really help you. Yes, there are people out there who are really good at what they do and they have an amazing message. And then there's people out there who really are really good at their message and they really don't know what they're doing. And they're pulling in those people because they're seeing something that's really speaking to a pain point that sometimes the people who actually have the skills and the wherewithal to help them are maybe not touching on that message deeply enough. So they're going with those other people who are now then making them not trust, right? Because then they're feeling like, well, how can I trust this person who I've just found? I've loved her content. She's amazing at she sounds amazing at what she does. It sounds so good what she's saying, but I'm afraid to say yes to even getting on a call because what if the thing that she's selling, I say, yes, I really want that. And I sell it and I say yes to it. What if it doesn't work? Because they're already thinking of their past experience. I think that's part of it too. And
Well,
it's
because they've
having
been,
the right voices, you know?
well, because they've been so garbage too.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of coaches online are told to make to 50 to 100 friend requests a day. And
No.
if I told you,
No.
if because to sell their products and do that stuff. But if I told you how many people are waiting in my friend request, it's ridiculous because I don't just accept friend requests because I don't want you on my page if you're not real because you don't belong in my profile is a sacred place to me. People that are there are people that I built connections to and people that are friends and family and I don't want them exposed to that shit. So
Mhm.
literally check out everyone, right? So I was checking out somebody who's supposed to be like this health person, just an example who's going to help people stress less and change their life and stuff, right? So I said, well, let me see what he has to say. And I could tell by just what he wrote that those weren't his words, you know? I don't think there's a coach online that doesn't know that that brain goes with ChatGPT. I told CJ too. And everybody knows it, but if you don't have the time to write something for yourself that to express, it's one thing to use it for help, but like, hey, what's the topic I could talk about today? But to make that your words is another story because then it's really not you.
Yeah.
And what
Mhm.
your message is really not you. And you're becoming the person you're speaking about, those unauthentic people that are selling everybody else, right? So I think that to me spoke, if you don't have time to take 5 minutes to tell people good morning and how are you and these are my thoughts today, then how much time are you going to put into that program you're selling, that support system you're going to give them? That's what that says to me, you know. But and maybe I overthink things, but I get paid to think critically. This happens, I do this. I see this is my response. So do I want people like that on my page selling a perfect world that they're creating in a chat? No. I want if they were talking about something real and like CJ stuff is very unfiltered. And that's what I like about it. It's very unfiltered. Fuck you. You're 50, you feel sorry for yourself, get up off your ass and do it anyway. Right. And I can relate to that because and there are days some days I just look for her post when I'm getting on that little pity party. Oh, this I got so much to do. I gotta finish this, I gotta finish that. And there's CJ telling you, fuck you, get up and do it anyway. you know,
Mhm.
and I think people need that. And I think when we start censorizing our feelings, so many people have stuffed things down for so long. And that has caused so much trauma inside our bodies and that we're really recreating that and saying that it's automation. It's not really
Mhm.
automation. It's not automation if you're automating this process. Automation is when things flow freely in your business because you've set up systems that work. That's not censoring your thoughts and what you feel. And I think that's the piece that people actually miss. So I want to hear from you guys on what I just said, because I know that I'm always blah, 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 blah. And then we're going we're going to close this session out so I could take my dog for her shots.
Go ahead, Leslie.
Yeah. So first of all, I feel like you talked self-care there in a lot of what you were saying, because it is about honoring yourself and having that, being able to have like a process. Why, what I call, as I was saying, like I have a 3 question filter that I use, and that is, am I saying yes out of alignment? So like something comes across my feed. Am I saying yes out of alignment, or am I saying yes out of guilt, obligation, or fear? And what am I trading for this yes? Because a lot of people don't realize that when you say yes to something, you're trading away something else. Okay. They're not understanding that, because whatever you say yes to, there is a trade-off, and you have to be able to go deeper and say, okay, now what do I need? How do I feel? Is this going to serve my greater good? You touched on that a little bit earlier, CJ, about how, like what we're saying yes to is really going to impact our life, whether it's negative or whether it's positive. It's just going to do either or. What I liked about what you were saying was that being online, there is a lot of noise, and it's being, with those people out there saying, yeah, friend requests, 50 to 100 people a day, and that it should only take you an hour. Well, yeah, maybe it might only take you an hour if all you do is you randomly friend request 50 to 100 people. But who are they? Because I don't want a bunch of random, I'm like you, Andra. I don't want a bunch of random people on my friends list that I have nothing in common with. I'm not necessarily looking for every person to be a client, but I do want there to be some real connection, that I can have a conversation with this person and not feel like, oh my gosh, like who are you? Because we don't vibe at all. Not everyone in the world is meant to be on our friends list. Not everybody is, or as Jamie Kern Lehman, her book Worthy, would say, assigned to our destiny, right? They're not. And that's okay. But that's what I feel is like it's the online space has become this place where it's like, okay, what can I do to get instead of how can I give? But then off again, being that giver, as I talked about earlier, is like, how can I receive? Because again, you're giving a service and you're earning money for it. And that's how we have to look at it's an exchange for your service for money. And that's okay. And they're getting the transformation. But again, as I was talking about the trust, it is really important that we pay attention to that. And being able to decide, like, the people who are out there telling us to do all of this X, Y, and Z, and that's going to make it, and you're not being authentic. And then looking at people's content and realizing that it's AI talking and it's not really their real thoughts. If when you just plug in something to AI and all you're doing is just allowing it to filter back and you just plug and play, who are you then, right? Have you lost your voice? You're the one that's taking away your own voice. So I think that's also important too. And being able to be able to say how you feel and be able to resonate with people online, you're going to find your people are going to find you, but it is that authentic piece. And I think, again, that comes back down to self-care of how you see that person, the person that you stare back at in your mirror every single day. How do you connect with her? And how is she then connecting with the world? Because what we're mirroring out mirrors back to us. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's what came to me.
Okay.
See?
CJ, what are your thoughts, honey?
I think, for me, it comes back to self-care being discernment, being able to say, I've been through enough crap. I can read your energy. I can feel your bullshit from a mile away. And I'm on the fence with the whole 50 friend requests a day, because I personally do that, but it's people who are interacting with my posts. It's people who are interacting with content that I put out. So I'm not just randomly spamming everybody out there, but it's the discernment to know that based upon something that that person's put out or the energy that I feel from them, that my words, my authenticity is going to land for them, and I can really have a genuine conversation. So for me, it's about, building that rapport, but it's also the discernment to go, okay, I can have a conversation, and if I'm not feeling it, I don't feel guilty about saying, you know what, no, I don't want this conversation to continue, or people who ask to come in my business, I'm okay with saying no, because I don't want to work with you because you're going to be an energy suck and I don't need that. So I think for me, it comes back to the self-care of being able to stand proudly and know that I've been through enough to be able to say, I'm okay with giving my energy to this, and I'm okay with saying no and honoring my own boundaries and not just giving to everybody. And when you spoke to receiving, I think that's a huge thing, because a lot of us are taught to, you know, downplay things. Like you said, somebody walks by and they say, "Oh, wow, you have a great smile." You're like, "Oh, yeah, okay." And in reality, it's like, yes, I have a great smile. I have worked really hard for these teeth. I went and I had braces and I did all these things. And, it's really a thing to be able to have gone through the trials and tribulations of life, and then to be able to go, okay, I'm where I'm at. Maybe I'm not where I want to be totally in the, scheme of things, but every single day I've done something to get me to where I'm at right now. And there's somebody out there praying for the situation that I have created right now. And so for me, that's the big thing. That's my part of receiving, is like, when I go out every morning and I put my post up and I call you on your bullshit and you come into my feed and you go, "Oh my God, that spoke to me today." That's me receiving, because I've been through enough stuff to be able to be okay with putting it out there and not caring what other people are thinking anymore. Not caring that I may have stepped on someone's toes or, made their ass pucker. I don't care, because there's somebody out there who needs that message. And for me, that's self-care. That's the biggest self-care for me, is knowing that something that I said is going to come up, and the lady's going to be in a situation, is going to go, "Oh my God, that brings me back to CJ's post, and that really landed for me." And that to me is the biggest self-care that I could ever have. And that for me is receiving, to knowing that I've made a difference and made somebody stop thinking, go, "I don't have to accept that. I don't have to do it that way. I can stand on my own 2 feet and I can do whatever I want." So that's what I
I
got.
think you ladies both I love you both. You have so much to offer on this conversation, I think that people don't want to be sold. They want to know that we're creating a solution for them, whether that is just owning our own voice and saying what we want to say, loud. At this stage of my life, I wish I would have told more people to fuck off, and that I'm going to be who I want to be. I think I would have smiled happily saying it, right? So I think that we just need to have these conversations more and let women know that it's okay. It's okay. It doesn't matter where you are in your business or your life. Everything that you want to achieve is just a yet for you yet. I'm certainly not where I want to be. My vision is so much bigger than, it's not even close to what I'm doing right now. And I have a long way to go. But it's that journey that I'm enjoying so much, you know? And many people might think I'm out of my mind. I don't care. I really don't care, because I'm having so much fun at this stage of my life. At 58 years old, I never thought I'd have this much fun putting things out for kids, but I am, because I want to say in how those kids develop. And my voice is the only way I can do that. Leslie, you do that through self-care. CJ, you do that by making people own their own shit. And it's all different perspectives, but we're all bringing people back to themselves, which is ironic, right? Because we all have a different piece in that, and everybody out there has a different piece in that. There are different parts of the body, and everybody specializes in this or this or this and this, but collectively, all of those people, if they all came together, we'd have that perfect person.
Yeah.
Instead of attacking what this one's doing, attacking what that one's doing, and just let people live and let live, right?
Yep.
I try to live my life that way. I fall short a lot, but I do try. So I want to thank both of you ladies for coming and being the co-host on Healing from the Inside Out today. I want to thank the audience for joining us. Any last words from either of my co-hosts?
I just want to, we're all being groomed to think that we have to want what everybody else wants, the keeping up with the Joneses idea. And just want every single person out there to realize that your voice, your power, your truth is an intricate, individualized piece to the larger puzzle. And you were created on purpose with your purpose, and you're not meant to be just like everybody else. Because think about it, when you're putting a puzzle together, every piece is a different interlocking piece, but we need all of us, all our authenticity, all our differences, all our special gifts to create the one big masterpiece. And that's what I want to land.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great message to leave the audience with. I really feel like this, one of the things that people get really hung up on is having to have a bunch of different routines, that self-care is one size fits all, and it's not. If you are a mom who has small children, you're not going to have the same amount of time as a mom who has kids that are away at college, who now has more freedom in her early morning day to do more for herself. If you have, you're a caregiver for your parents, you might not have time at the end of your day to do a full-on morning routine because maybe you're going and you're spending time at your parents and you're making dinner for them and doing laundry and cleaning, whatever that looks like. It is for me bringing in joy. Like I love what you were saying, Andra, having so much more fun. That's a big piece of self-care. Find ways to actually bring joy into your life. And so again, that to me, even if that's your self-care, where you find pockets of your day to bring joy into your life, and that's all that it is, it's finding a way to laugh, whether it's going on and watching some funny videos, reading a good book, watching maybe something inspiring, maybe talking to a friend and laughing about stuff. Finding just that can be self-care too. I think people don't realize that self-care has so many different levels to it. Every moment in your life can be a self-care moment. So I just wanted to leave the audience with that.
So thank you guys for joining us today. There's only one you. Be you. Intentionally be proud of who you are. Have a great day.